Celtics Ready podcast.
Back out to Smart. Fakes the pass all the time. Three. Bang! It's Williams three. Lobs it up for Robert Williams.
Shouldn't he know? Taylor Brown.
Tatum. Durant, the long reach. Tatum crossover pull-up jumper. It's good. 50 points for Jason Tatum.
Hello and welcome to the Celtics Reddit podcast. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Nearly a full squad on the pod today. Shout out to Jackson who couldn't be here for this one. But joining us as he often does, our New Zealand correspondent, Joe, aka No Scrolls McFly. Joe, what's up?
Mate, it's we just got rain here for the first time this summer, so that's positive news actually.
That's great, and a Celtics win.
So I'm looking out at a very damp ground, which makes everyone quite happy.
We've also got the content king himself, Wayne Spoony. Spoons, how you doing, sir? Welcome back.
I'm doing good, man. Riding high off the least impressive 33-point win I've ever seen. So it's a good day. Good day.
It's a great day for Celtics fans. And finally, very happy to welcome back from a brief hiatus, which may have involved a possible kidnapping. I'm not sure. Celtics Jay, welcome back, sir. How have you been?
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Tight-lipped? All right, well, we can unpack that as we go along. But for now, the Celtics, they take down the Magic, as they should, really, 116-83. Great game for the old net rating. Joe, you can be our first cab off the rank here. What was the story of this game, so to speak? Like, how did the Celtics get this one done?
I'm tempted to, I've been thinking about how I want to approach analysis of this, little period. And I just want to enjoy it for what it was. So what I'm going to say is that we're a significantly better team than the Magic, and as a result, we won by a significant margin. How's that take that for data?
I just say when you stack these two teams up next to each other, you got one that's better than the other. That's what we saw today. So, first of all, when you kicked it to Joe, what the hell was that expression? Cab in the what?
Cab off the rank. Yeah, so okay.
I've not heard. Is that
we may have a new culture shock segment cooking here. So cab, as in a taxi, a cab, and then usually they're parked in a cab rank. Like a taxi lineup. And the first cab off the rank would be the first one to depart. So, offering Joe like the first foray into the conversation. The cleanest cab.
No, you normally grab a taxi. The first one there is what you take, right?
Yeah, there's an etiquette at the cab rank. You've got to go up to the front.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Understood. Okay.
I thought that expression would have been universal, to be honest.
Nope.
I thought.
Okay,
now that you've enlightened me and I'm a much better person after having that additional knowledge, I would say the defense was absolutely insane, basically. I mean, Orlando's an awful offensive team that can't shoot. And then when you got a team playing defense like the Celtics are right now, it's going to lead to probably a blowout win, even though we couldn't shoot. We got a good Schröder game. That always helps when Tatum's not really shooting well. Thought the ball moved, like how much pace Marcus Smart was playing, and he's been playing with that type of pace for a while now. And yeah, I mean, I honestly think Joe really did hit it on the head. They're just really a bad team, and they looked like it. And, our defense, we ride the defense to another win.
Yeah, all right, well, that's all we've got time for. We've wrapped the whole thing up in one tiny little gift package there. Jay, I mean, dare I ask, is there anything in addition to what Joe and Spoonie have said? Is there anything else to add to this?
Well, I think the one thing that we haven't maybe totally touched on yet is that when we look at this game from the way that it opened up to the way that it finished, there was one team that ultimately ended up scoring more points than the other, and this time it was the Celtics.
Do you guys feel like Tatum kind of struggles with the Magic I don't know. I feel like he has not had a good game against them this year. I didn't look back on the first game, but he didn't play in the second game where we had that crazy comeback, but it just seems like if you can't make a three, they basically played zone all night, right? And they just threw Mo Bamba at the rim. And Tatum he did not go to the rim very strong on Bamba. I do think he was passing great. But it's kind
Jalen took care of it.
That's for sure. And Schröder, just in time to raise his trade value. But it's kind of impressive we couldn't make a shot and we still won by that much going against the zone. You kind of think, you shoot a team out of a zone, and we were totally incapable of doing that. I almost don't even know how we scored so many points. It's I don't know. It's just a really weird game, and there's no crowd noise in Orlando. It was just kind of a
Pritchard
strange
is
one.
dunking on the break.
Right? Yeah, all sorts of weird shit's happening.
Yeah, well, there you go. So there are some things to glean from this game. It was a peculiar outing for the Celtics, and yeah, I mean you're right, Joe, in that it would be really difficult to fuck up and lose against this actively tanking Magic team, and yet it is another decisive win for the Celtics, right? That's not just happened in a vacuum now. We're seeing these huge blowout victories over admittedly subpar teams, but that's not something that we've always been able to say about the Celtics in this season and recent seasons past. So I do think there are some details to attack here. And for me, this game encapsulated both of the successes and the failures of our season so far. The Magic, they were packing the paint and allowing a bunch of three-point attempts, and we were just missing them all, even though they were essentially wide open. But because the defense was able to create a bunch of stops and the improved ball movement on our offense and how the Celtics' newfound ability to attack zone defenses sort of comes into play as well, we were able to win a game like that essentially easily, whereas half a season ago, it's probably a triple overtime game, as we saw early on, or eventually a loss. So yes, it's a game against the faltering Magic, but I think it's indicative of all the improvements that we've made throughout the season so far. So
we did what we were supposed to do against a team like the Magic.
Exactly, which, again, we've not always been able to say. Yep. So an impressive win.
Right. No, it feels pretty good to be able to be like, we beat the Magic.
Yeah.
I'd say one thing that probably it's sort of the dog that did not bark for me is that I'm trying to remember a sequence in which we didn't clean up a defensive rebound where it really felt like we were supposed to, because often that sort of feels like when the wheels are starting to come off, it starts with that. We just don't clean up a miss that we're supposed to clean up. The other team hits a three, as people often do off an offensive rebound, and then we're like, oh, here we go again. We just didn't have that kind of moment to sort of emotionally impale us. So that was helpful. I'm just checking the box score to see if I'm actually right about that, see how many offensive rebounds they had. Didn't seem like they had a lot. They had 8. We had 16. So there you go.
Well, and not to go on too much of a tangent, but a lot of the way that Rob has been impacting the game has been with his offensive rebounding, which I think we've seen on the other side of that how devastating that can be, especially to a defense that's trying to be committed and trying to be locked in. When Rob's going out there and punching the ball back out, and we're the ones that are, benefiting from those offensive opportunities as opposed to always be on the other side of it. I think it's just setting us up to be more effective on the defensive end and get those rebounds and be better positioned and just, you probably end up getting in one of those arguments about, which comes first, chicken or the egg type deal. I don't know if that's an expression that's as universal as cab positioning or what have it, but
yeah. And I think that's +8 in possessions, right? Yeah. That's huge. That's the equivalent of 8 steals.
Plus 3 on turnovers. Plus 3 on turnovers as well, so plus 11 possessions, yeah.
So we had 11 more possessions than them. So even though we shot terribly, I mean, you don't even need to shoot that well when you're winning the possession battle that crazily.
Yeah, really impressive games from Horford and Grant Williams in that vein, in that, the shots that the team was succeeding on, I think we had something like 54 or 59 points in the paint, and you saw multiple times Al Horford and Grant Williams bodying up and just getting these old school, roughhousing buckets, which isn't something that we normally go to, but it was just something that was allowed to us by the shoddy Magic defense. Horford, 13, 11, and 5. Grant with an efficient 12 points and some solid defense. Really good to see as Ime, I guess, builds out this, what's looking like an 8-man rotation going into the trade deadline. Spoons, I've got a question for you, though. Do you still want to go away from this starting double big lineup, given all the great stats and everything that are coming out about our starting lineup since basically the beginning of the year?
The starting lineup's doing well. It's doing great. It's a great lineup. I would posit that just about anybody with those 4 guys, kind of the core 4, is going to be a really damn good lineup. And I still believe Grant Williams with the core four has an even better net rating than Horford out there with them. And but that said, the big thing I hated about starting Horford was Udoka was not subbing him out early enough, so we were left with like 6 to 10 Enes Kanter minutes a night. And that was like the huge problem, I thought. So now it seems like he's taking Horford and Tatum out early, and we're getting basically Rob and Horford swapping at center with a little bit of double big sprinkled in. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not nearly up in arms about it as I was maybe in December. So, and you can't really knock the results, man. They played like 300 minutes together and like the third or fourth best lineup in the NBA. So I still think Grant would be a better option in the starting lineup, but I don't think it's to the point anymore where I really care that much, because that lineup is absolutely shutting people down, man. Like, you cannot score on that lineup.
Grant and Al at this point, like, have pretty substitutable skill sets, I feel. And Grant, man, he's pretty switch proof now. Like, Spoons, shout out Spoons' tweet, but like he just moves his feet really well. I feel like he's always given a really good effort, but man, he's just swallowing guards up right now. He's not getting beaten off the dribble at all, and that just, it means that he's a very effective substitute for Horford, and he's obviously a better shooter at this point. I'd still prefer Horford. Horford is a bit bigger, I think. I think you can have a better defense with Horford. And if that's our identity, maybe that sort of plays into that a little bit. Like, if we're a win-ugly team, which I think we need to be, maybe that's the argument for keeping Horford in there, for sort of setting that tone. But, yeah.
You still think we're a win-ugly team the way we're looking now, though? Like, with this ball movement.
I would call today's game an ugly game, though. It was pretty brutal at stretches. Look at the three-point shooting percentages alone.
Yeah, but when it's just the shots not going in, that's one thing. I mean, we saw what happens when the team plays with cohesion and moving the ball. Shots don't fall, but they're still blowing out the Magic and doing what they're supposed to do. Whereas prior in the year, they're not moving the ball. They're playing the stagnant, ISO offense. So when the shots don't fall, they got no other way of really having an attack. I just think we're seeing more of that balance now. When these guys are clicking like this, I mean, right, they have an off shooting night. You get good shooting nights from a couple of the role players to make up the difference. But we've seen a couple of games where when they are clicking and those shots are falling, I mean, good luck.
There's definitely a point there, Jay, like where we're smart in and the tempo's up and we're forcing turnovers. It's a lot more fun to watch. Fast break points cover quite a lot of ills, eh? They are the most fun things in basketball normally. And I'm just going off the top of my head. I think we would have had more fast break points recently than we've had. This is just me totally making things up. It feels like we're getting fast breaks a lot more frequently. That helps. That helps a lot. I can't stand the aesthetics of Schröder's game. I just hate the guy. It's so unfair. He's probably really fun in real life, but I just can't stand him. And to me, like, every time he's initiating the offense, it's pretty ugly.
And you've noticed that now that they've started running and like actually moving the offense with some haste, Schröder is no longer happy.
Right. It's just so against type for him, eh? He just can't help himself. He did this thing, I want to say it was towards the end of the third quarter tonight, where he walked the dog, right? Yay, saving time, right? And he picks it up and like stands there for like 4 seconds before starting to dribble. What's the point, man?
Yeah, look, all this coaching staff that we have on the team, all the great minds around the Celtics, not one person has had a conversation with Schröder to be like, dude, what's going on with the dog walking? Like, most of the time we're trying to run down the clock and get to the final buzzer sooner rather than later so we can all go home or get on the plane or whatever it is. What the fuck are you doing? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand the
flinch at a free throw like Horford. Come on, get it together, guy.
Yeah, be normal.
Do you remember who John Neidnagel was?
I feel like I'd remember
Are
that
you
name.
making names
No.
He was otherwise known as the Brain Doctor. And
yes.
I would suggest that Dennis Schröder and Russell Westbrook I'd suggest that they've got the same makeup. Like, I just cannot imagine either of them changing much for anybody. I imagine them being pretty young.
That was like Ainge's first guru that he brought in when he took the reins. He brought in the big brain doctor and started trying to find like.
Scal was apparently one of the things that the brain doctor pushed for.
Yeah, he was real high on the list.
Well, look, once we trade him, we can buy him a copy of Nightingale's latest book and give him some reading material for the plane ride to Indiana, hopefully. Answer me this question. What's the play of the game? Jaylen Brown stunk or Peyton Pritchard stunk?
Oh, yeah. Grant's post up.
Celtics Jay shaking his head. Now he's nodding his head.
Best play of this game. Best play of this game was towards the end. It was Tatum actually throwing it into the post to Rob for a dunk.
That's a nice read.
Yeah. And so it was the read, it was the just intention behind it all. It was just like he owned every moment of that play. Like everything happened exactly how you could tell it was in his head.
Let's see what the people of Celtics Reddit have to say on this one. Hopefully a little bit more than what I have had to say so far. User Fbreaker wrote, I'm so excited about Robert Williams' newfound longevity. So in 2018-19, he played 283 total minutes. The following year, 388 total minutes. 2020-2021, 985 minutes played. And this season, 1,280 minutes played and counting. Granted, this user goes on to say, he's still not the most durable player, but he's only 24 and his growth has been amazing. Imagine what he's going to be like in his prime, which is great. And following up on that, user Iverson wrote, what I like most is that the Jays haven't had to be dominant the entirety of this win streak. Last season and for portions of this season, if Tatum didn't drop 30, we were in trouble. They've been looking like a real team with a real, dare I say, identity, which I think is true. We've actually got contributions coming from elsewhere, even off the bench with Josh Richardson, who was 0 of 8 today, but I think a plus 24 in the game. We are starting to see contributions coming from other guys on the team, allowing the Jays to take more of a backseat at times and, just kind of play their game as it comes to them rather than forcing things, which, as we see with Tatum in particular, can be troublesome. I'm going to throw it back out to you guys one more time before we move on. Do you have anything else that you want to add from this Magic game or, really the last week or so of Celtics basketball before we get to some more Reddit stuff?
Do any of you guys just feel like, and maybe I'm just damaged, the other shoe's going to drop here and we're going to lose 5 in a row or something? It feels like you're dating somebody and you're like, no, Mom, I swear, she's sober now, it'll be fine. This time she'll stay sober and it'll all work out. I don't know. It just feels like this is too good to be true right now and I've been hurt before. So I'm trying to protect my emotions.
Are strangely specific.
Yeah. You did move to West Virginia, so I take it all worked out, right?
Yeah, this is not speaking from experience at all, guys, all right?
I'm just trying to enjoy it for what it is. It's great watching them just crush teams, and for me, it's not yet indicative of a true contender. If they do this for 20 straight games, sure, but we're still a 30-25 team. We're probably gonna be a low to mid 40s win team. That's cool. We'll enjoy our first. That's enough to enjoy the season. But I'm not gonna pin my hopes on this team yet.
I am. All my hopes are pinned.
I was gonna do it.
I like a couple of the articles that have come out recently too, though, that have talked about some comments coming out specifically from different players on the team, just noting, hey, not for nothing, everybody, but there is some time necessary for team chemistry to get built up and for, this new system to kind of gel. We were talking about this at the beginning of the year. This is going to be a process. That it's very likely this wasn't going to click and magically just be excellent right away. And as much as some of the experiences we've had have been drawing us into past traumas with this team over the last few seasons, this is not the same team that it was last year. And it's not the same team that it was 2 seasons ago. Most of us aren't the same people we were 2 weeks ago, let alone a full season ago. You know what I mean? I just think it's been really a joy to watch the team go through all of the things they're having to go through. And I mean, I guess for my own benefit or for my own sake, I don't attach my emotions to the team's success in the same way. I can appreciate when we are not playing as well as I'd like them to play. So anyway, that's me going on a whole bunch of tangents, but I love all of it. I believe in it all. We're going to win the championship.
I think actually, like, just this slightly serious point, I think sometimes a lot of the comments in Reddit and on Twitter and whatever are like people criticizing everyone else's basic approach to being a fan. And I think it's fine. Like I want Jay to enjoy his fandom, and if that's the approach he takes to enjoy his fandom, cool, man. Like, enjoy it. Do you, like, yeah. I think there's something to be said for just leaving people be a little bit with where they are emotionally with the team. It's not unreasonable. I don't think he's naive. He's just, that's how he's choosing to enjoy this team and process the narratives that he's getting presented with.
Yeah.
Likewise me, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a full spectrum really to fandom, and Twitter is not a welcoming place for the majority of that spectrum, I would say.
Especially if you're a Neesmith fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that for
Or
a
a
second?
born-again Marcus Smart apologizer.
Well, look, we are going to get to Marcus Smart in just a few moments, but me
I
and
bet we are.
Spoonie talked about Neesmith just randomly on the pod a couple of weeks ago, and me trying to be creative and a content producer, I thought, I'll clip that together, add some random clips of Aaron Neesmith and put it online, tweet it out. We should give Aaron Neesmith more playing time, with the general argument being that with more playing time would come more confidence, and with more confidence would come more efficient shot making. The basic thesis.
And I'll add, sorry, Ben, not
Please.
to cut you off,
No,
but
go
I'm
ahead.
about to. I'll add that when we talked about that and recorded that pod, we were like 3 games under 500. It was like the nadir of the season. So our point was like, we suck. We might as well see what these young guys have. And the one time Neesmith got actual run, he looked pretty good. At this point, what have we got to lose? And then you release it when we're on this like unreal hot streak, and people are like, "You idiots, we're winning games." But like the vitriol caught me off guard. I've not been on Twitter that long, and man, yeah, I got in the mud, baby. I was slinging it back.
Yeah, you were in the trenches throwing grenades over the gap.
Damn right.
Trying to get some frags. Yeah, no, I made me realize I'm not as strong as I thought I was as far as accepting criticism online. It was really, like, some of it was quite
Right,
personal.
I'm very sensitive.
Yeah. So, anyway.
One guy called me mentally challenged.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, dude. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad we exercised those
hey,
demons.
great feedback. I think we need like a feedback line, and we just group together all the negative feedback from people who just don't get it.
Yeah.
And let's just let's
They don't
embrace
get our brilliance.
Yeah, that's right.
Can this just evolve into being our version of like the wiener line?
What's the wiener line? It sounds like something.
Oh my god.
Is it similar to the cab rank?
Spoons, are you with me on this one? You know what I'm talking about?
Is it like the Oscar Mayer wiener line or
No,
something?
no. This is I might be getting the pronunciation wrong because I got bad enunciation skills, but no, the bit there's a sports broadcaster, I think it was the Big O or some shit like that, on the Boston
The
Sports.
Big O and the wiener line?
Yeah, they had this thing at the end of every show. Listen, folks. Y'all in the sub, help a guy out right now. Don't just let them know I'm not making shit up. They had a bit though at the end of each of their shows where they'd just have like a catalog of like calls that had come in with like commentary on what they were doing, talking junk or whatever it might be. And it was a fun little funny bit that they do on the show. So I was bringing it up because it resonated with what you were talking about. But no, let's just keep throwing shade at me over it.
I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, the Celtics Reddit podcast Wiener line might not do well on the internet. But we can
I
try.
think that's exactly what'll do well on the internet.
Well,
This is why you're getting roasted on Twitter, man. Come on.
yeah, I'm obviously behind the times. Let's end this segment with this from StatMuse, who said the Celtics in 2022, first in net rating, first in defensive rating, first in opponent effective field goal percentage, with a 13-6 record, Tatum averaging 26-8-5, Brown averaging 25-7-4, Sirs, January/early February. Great time to be a Celtics fan. We're going to move on now to the Reddit recap, and we're going to start with our very own, the content king, Wayne Spoonie, with a great write-up titled The Museum of Modern Smart, The Subtle Brilliance of Marcus Smart, Part 1. And Spoons, like this obviously focuses on the part one focuses on the defensive impact of Marcus Smart. It's a very satisfyingly long post, which isn't something I hear very often in my life, and I definitely recommend reading it. Spoons, can you give us like just the TLDR for anyone who hasn't read it yet?
I think, long story short, Smart stats never have, and probably never will jump off the page, at least traditional metrics, but his on-offs for every stat are incredible this season, especially. So I just wanted to find some plays that evidence, like, here's the types of small things that, I don't notice them when I'm just watching the game normally. Not that you probably don't even notice until you like step back and say, I'm just going to watch Marcus Smart for 20 possessions straight and see all the stuff he's doing off ball on defense and ball moving and connecting on offense. So I just wanted to convey how valuable he is, despite the fact that his traditional counting stats are not high enough for him to ever make an all-star game.
I mean, trying to think of a way to understand the impact that Smart has on the game, because as fans, like we're all paid up members of the Build Around Marcus Smart Society here, are we not?
Absolutely.
We are, right? So we see it, but I'm trying to think of this concept of like applying like opportunity cost, a sort of an opportunity cost analysis to Marcus Smart, because it seems to me that a lot of the stuff he gets criticized for, and definitely not all, it's like Smart takes too many threes. Well, what was the opportunity cost of him taking that three? Right? What was the next thing in the chain of events what did it cost us for doing that? And I sort of feel like he doesn't in general take. There's definitely exceptions. There's some notable exceptions where he does take shots that cost the team, but every player does that, right? But I generally feel like offensively he makes the best read available, and the best read still might be him shooting a three at a 33% clip. That still might be the best play there. The best available play. Maybe that's like, I don't know. I feel like that's a coaching concept, right? But but yeah, I sort of feel like people analyzing Smart they analyze it in a vacuum, and it's in that wider context of he did something that might look poor on a normal statistical metric that actually still contributes to winning. If you take a shot, right, that has a 33% chance of going in and you're wide open, your feet set, and there's 3 seconds on the shot clock, right? Like that's still a good shot. It's the best available shot, and I sort of feel like that's, I don't know. I'm going once again. I'm making this up as I go, but I feel like that's kind of missing the conversation.
I completely agree with you, particularly with he takes shots that don't cost the team much, but I don't think that's always been the case. It definitely hasn't always been the case.
And he'll still fire up bad shots. Like he'll still fire up objectively bad shots, no doubt about it.
Joe, to your point, there's actually a play I'm gonna use for the offense section. He sets up the offense, makes a hard cut, ends up in the corner, gets the ball, pump, drive, throws a nice dump off pass to Horford, who just isn't ready for it, and it goes out of bounds, and it's a turnover on Smart, but it's not hit. The stat would be that's a bad play by Marcus Smart, but it's actually an awesome play from basically the start of the shot clock to the very end. Horford should have had an easy layup. He just, he was kind of in position. He just kind of missed the ball. So I think that's the type of thing you're getting at with he's making the right read, even if the outcome isn't perfect. And that's how you keep the sustained success over an entire season.
Another play that looked like I don't want to put this fully into the it's along the lines. I want to say we're sort of starting to make a run. It's on a fast break. He over-penetrated in anticipation of somebody being in the strong side corner, and he sort of threw it. It just went wildly out of bounds, and it was my bad. But to be honest, that's almost like it is at least 50% on him. But somebody should have actually been in that corner, and that's another example of I just sort of feel like his basketball brain operates at a way higher level than the average player. And that's why he makes some amazing reads on help defense. It's why he throws a lot of lobs, I feel, to where Rob should be. I've seen Rob miss a couple where he just wasn't there for whatever reason. And you can't look, it's a bad result when you have a turnover. But actually another thing, I wonder how many of Smart's turnovers result in dead ball turnovers as opposed to live ball turnovers. Because Schröder generates a hell of a lot of live ball turnovers. Like he threw this awful entry pass to Tatum at the elbow tonight, you know? Whereas Smart, like a live ball turnover is so much worse than a dead ball one. I wish there was a stat for that. Can someone in the community help us find that? I'd love to have my priors validated there.
Yeah, please, folks, help us out. Tell me if I'm completely insane in asking this question because it has popped into my mind during this recent stretch of Smart play. Is it still okay to trade, hypothetically, Marcus Smart in a package for Bradley Beal? Or would we need a Smart archetype more than a Beal archetype with this current makeup of the team? Or am I just so high on Smart that I've completely lost my mind?
I don't know, man.
I can take it.
Beal's starting to scare me.
Right?
Beal is starting to scare me a little bit. His shooting is just, like, not there. He's going to want the super max. And I don't know, he's had it. He's been banged up in his career. I think he had like knee issues for a little while there. I don't know, man. It would depend on the package, but I would not want to include Smart. I mean, him and Beal in the backcourt would be the ideal, really. I mean, those two would be awesome together. So, I don't know. Then
you're looking at moving Rob, and then you've kind of got to almost at this point ask the same question. Yeah. Jay, you're quiet over there. You got anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I feel like everyone kind of knows where I stand on the. So here's the thing: I have not heard of a team that's not interested in having Smart included in a package that results with him ending up on their team. Like, he is not the player you trade away to become a contender. He's the player you trade for to become a contender. Like, he's a better version of PJ Tucker. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not talking about trading Smart. I'm talking about not trading Smart, even for Bradley Beal.
No,
is where I'm at. So.
I wouldn't have traded him for Bradley Beal in the offseason 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago.
Amazing.
But
I'm
not a Beal enthusiast like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, look, on this great post by Spoons, if you haven't read it, pause this podcast, go and read it. It's essential reading for any Celtics fan, particularly any Celtics Redditor. User Tice159, moderator of the Celtics sub, said on the post, I haven't read it yet as I'm on a date night and she's in the toilet. But I'll say this post was heavily requested by Celtics J, and I know it. But we're not going to shed light on that conspiracy. That's just going to remain a mystery. Let's move on, shall we? This is a post on the sub by user Celtin4, who asks, where is Mike Gorman the past few nights? And I believe the answer was just like, I don't know, he doesn't like traveling with the team, or he's sick, or he's taken leave for whatever reason. But the question I wanted to ask you guys...
The Heinsohn situation, yeah.
Yeah, the question I think this prompts is, I mean, this is tough because we love Mike Gorman, right, as longtime Celtics fans. But, Joe, is it time for Mike Gorman to hang up the boots? Is it time for him to hand the reins over to Grande? Grande?
Yeah, he's mixing up players a lot. Hey, you know, he's I mean, does it really matter though how accurate your play-by-play guy is? It doesn't really, right? You want them to be funny, hopefully have some sort of insight on the team. So I'm okay with him continuing as long as he wants to continue. Like, it's part of he's sort of part of the history of the team, right? And I don't feel any rush to get rid of a piece of sort of living history.
I love Grande. I think he's a completely worthy successor to Mike. I'm excited. I think he brings kind of a new enthusiasm to the play-by-play call. But that said, Mike has every right to hang him up when he feels it necessary. I still enjoy him. It's almost like you don't want to see him like actively losing it over television. I don't think we're at that point yet, but I hope they don't hang him out there to the point where it's like kind of sad. You know what I mean? Which, again, we are definitely not at that point yet. I still love Mike. He's definitely lost a step, though. And whenever Grande takes over, I will be just as excited to listen to Grande as I have been for Gorman the last 34 years.
I'm a big Sean Grande fan, too. I mean, that guy calls a game about as good as I've ever been able to hear anyone call a game in my life. And he's had to do it in an environment where it's like a little bit more. I mean, I'm not trying to undermine Mike or Tommy and their careers, but he's been doing the radio, and so like his ability to really like capture and help the audience visualize what's happening on the court, like the man is poetic. I remember his call during the championship is still one of the greatest things I've ever heard. The what was it? The mission statement is mission accomplished. Like, the man is on another level.
Goosebumps.
I'm saying, like, to this day, like I'm saying it and it's still having an effect. Like, it's tough. I think I agree with everyone where it's sort of like it's a bittersweet thing, because I think with all the enthusiasm we'd have for someone like Grande, there's the downside of realizing it's letting go of someone that I think has been very easy to cherish for all of our lives as Celtics fans. I don't know another voice for Celtics basketball.
Yeah, it's cool that there's a rightful successor and we don't really need to worry about it. And we know either way we're in good hands, whether it's Gorman for another couple of years or we go to Grande, tomorrow. User Forzarine on the sub on this post wrote, Grande is knowledgeable, but he editorializes a bit much for my tastes. Scal is no Tommy. So a rare, I guess, negative thought about Grande there, who's, otherwise pretty universally loved. User McLovin, D27, posted to the sub was a tweet from, I think, NBA Central. There are 2 offers on the table for Dennis Schröder, according to multiple sources, one from the Milwaukee Bucks and another from the Chicago Bulls. And user Robbie F21 commented on that post, I'm sure it'd be something like that Troy Brown plus second-round pick rumor or something relatively minor, but I'm definitely going to dream that we pull off a Kobe White swap with the Bulls. Spoons, any thoughts on that? I know you had some trades in mind for the Bulls and the Bucks there.
I got 3 trades to bounce off you guys. Whoa. I thought it was 4, but I miscounted. So they're very not spicy. So
I'll be the judge
Troy Brown Jr. Yeah, Troy Brown Jr. in a second is kind of our baseline. It sounds like that's been offered, and we're waiting to see what happens. I like Troy Brown. Well, he's fine. Super young, 6'6", shooting 33% from 3. Got some potential. I would propose, instead of a second, we add PJ Dozier to the deal and take back Matt Thomas. He's a good-sized shooting guard, shooting 41% from 3. He can handle 10 minutes a game, knock down a bunch of threes, like basically what we hope Sam Hauser can do. Mm-hmm. That's probably the lowest value for Schröder other than Troy Brown Jr. in a second. Okay, moving up. Thoughts on George Hill and Jordan Nwora for Dennis Schröder and probably a second-round pick with Milwaukee. Hill, 2 years left. He's only shooting 32% from 3, but he solves the all we have is Peyton Pritchard as a point guard after Schröder's gone. He's not really been playing very well in Milwaukee. You'd think Schroeder's going to take his minutes, so they might as well get off his contract. Nwora, young, 6'8" power forward, shooting 37% from 3, 39% for his career. I think that kind of low risk, high reward guy we could try and snag. And then finally, my last favorite trade would be Schröder in a second or 2 for Dante DiVincenzo. He's up after this year. They're deep in the luxury tax. They probably don't want to pay him. He's probably got more trade value right now where you can trade him, get him into your team, and have his restricted rights and not do a sign-in trade where you're hard capped. So maybe they're looking to move Dante. Another low risk. He's a good player. He's 24, I think. Can shoot the 3, can defend. I think it'd be immediately, at least similar to Richardson in our rotation. So those are the 3 trades. We probably should have talked about each one after them, but gentlemen, what do you think?
I like the one where we end up with Nwora, who, because I remember him from, I think, the first game we played against the Bucks at the beginning of the season, and he was in the starting lineup, I think, at that point, and he played pretty well. And I hadn't heard of him at that point, and did some Googling around him in his college career after that game. All of that information I've since forgotten, but I just remember his impact on the court and the fact that he's 6'8", can shoot the three. Like, he's a modern NBA player, right? And he's, I guess you could say, a position of need that we need, like shooting stretch fours, names that come up regularly. Harrison Barnes, Kyle Anderson. Obviously not that caliber, but he's at least fits that archetype. So I think that could be helpful and the highest upside. Jay, what do you guys think?
I'm real reluctant. I don't want to bring in a veteran point guard, because I know Udoka's going to play him ahead of Pritchard. I like George Hill. Like, I'd be real happy to have him on my team. So, like, ordinarily, I'd like that trade, I think. But I think I'd go for the DiVincenzo one. If they were all offered, I'd 100% go for the DiVincenzo thing, because he's a combo guard. And I think that's going to just smooth out the rotation a little bit. But then, George Hill, well, hey, how much George Hill have I really watched this year? But, when we were playing against him, man, he killed us. And he's huge arms, 6'3", good defender. I wouldn't be unhappy. Look, man, I'm going to be happy with any Schröder trade. But I think if I had to choose one, I'd choose the DiVincenzo one.
Now, Jay, I know you've said ham sandwich in the past, so do you prefer
I'll take a ham. Yeah, mustard. Don't put mayonnaise on my sandwich. But I'm concerned with how many people are comfortable giving the Bucks another point guard after the last time they got our backup point guard right before the playoffs. They went ahead and then won a championship. Like, I don't know why we're not taking that more seriously.
We can re-sign
a sleeper agent.
All right, look, I think those are all impressively realistic trade scenarios there, Spoon.
Can I make a quick interjection there?
Yeah, sure.
So I think what Jay's getting at, right, is like, hey, do we really want to be helping out a contender, right? That's what you're saying. And I think, like, we just have to swallow that that's what's going to happen, because if you're, unless you're trying to get above a salary floor or something like that, like, what use do you have for a Dennis Schröder? So that means that, hey, maybe you'd prefer to trade him to a West Coast team. Sure, fine, whatever. But it's going to be some team who thinks he's useful to them in a playoff push. That's the only way we're really even going to be able to move him. And I really want to move him. So I'm happy to, inflict him on another team, to be honest. Little sabotage. Little agent of chaos, send him over there.
But how much are we even really helping another team based on what we know now about Schröder? He's not a net positive player, so I don't know. Like, I get the point, absolutely. And as a long
neither was Teague. I'm just saying, look how that played out.
Yeah,
I don't make the rules of the universe. I just observe them, record them down in my scientific ways, and then upload my opinions onto YouTube, but assuming that it's tangible science.
Teague was so bad. Oh my gosh,
so bad.
He was so bad for us.
So bad. I will say I'm less low on Schröder than you guys. I do think if you could convince him, like, the best thing you could do is just score for 16 minutes a game, and you don't have to play 26 minutes or whatever, and he'd be happy doing that. I think ironically, the less he plays and the more he just embraces that sort of smaller role, the more valuable he becomes. And on our team, I don't think he's going to... He probably thinks he's like the third best player on the Celtics, right? He's like deep down, I'm better than Marcus Smart.
Everyone was talking about him as the third best player. Like, the first couple of months, you might have been one of the people. I'm not. No. Listen, we're not having this conversation.
No, I was not. I think Schröder's a nice bench guard, and maybe Giannis can say, we're winning a championship here. You need to get in line. Here's what you're doing. So I think he could be somewhat useful. I don't think he's swinging the championship, though. He's not that good.
For us, like, it felt like at the start of the season that he provided, like, there was a sort of Faustian bargain that we had to make. Look, he provides some skills we really, really need. we did need dribble penetration, and he did provide that. And what he took
Well,
off
when
the
Jalen
table-
was out, to your point, like we needed the scoring in a big way
Yeah.
with Jalen out.
But, oh, my gosh, he just drives me up the wall, eh?
Yeah.
Hard to watch. Time to go on the plane. Real quick, we're going to end on this post from Miguel Wayne. He's just posted the Chris Forsberg, friend of the show, article. The Celtics have found their third star in Robert Williams, and definitely go ahead and read that article if you haven't already. But the gist is that it's based off a post-game quote from Jason Tatum, who said that Rob could be an all-star or potentially Defensive Player of the Year. Opponents are shooting 42% when defended by Williams this season, or 4.5% below their expected field goal percentage. I believe that's third to Rudy Gobert, who's first in that category. And Rob also leads the league in blocks in the 4 to 14 feet from the basket range, and he's tied first in blocks from the 14 feet to the three-point line range as well. So incredible stuff there from Rob. But the question is, Joe, we'll go to you first. Could Rob Williams be
Spoons is
an all-star?
distracted.
Yeah, the cat's just crawling across Spoons' screen as we speak. Rob Williams,
Super
potential
professional, dude.
Hey, look, as long as
Hold
center
it
is
together.
like a defined category for an all-star game, which it's not actually. It's 3 front court guys right now. I think he's actually got a better chance of making an all-NBA team than an all-star game.
Sure.
How about that? Whoa. Just because of the
That's a
construction.
super smart take.
But yeah, I would view it as less likely that he would be an all-star, but man, certainly it can happen. If the team's successful, someone's going to get rewarded from outside of our established stars. So that could be him. Just a quick one on Rob. Rob, just a little wee note, mate. I want to see you make a bit better contact with your screens, Rob. It's very important. Dribble handoffs, particularly. If he catches it on the perimeter, he's got to go set. He's got to do a handoff, or he's got to do one of those kind of catch and go things. And he's got to make contact with the other guy, because that's going to result in lobs. If he makes good contact with, say, Jason Tatum's guy, then the center's got to pop out and take Tatum, which means that he's going to have a free lane to the hoop. So just Rob, if you do that, I believe you can be an all-star. Rob, how about that?
And Joe, because I think that's an awesome point, because I've wondered, and tell me if this plays into what you're noticing a little bit. Are you just noticing like he's almost like too eager to start going straight to the basket,
Yeah,
like he's
maybe.
looking for the lob? Like, because I felt like that's what I felt like I've seen lately is him kind of over anticipating. He's like already thinking lob before he's making the contact that would always get him that look later, like
I think
earlier
he
in the
might be
season.
right. Because
Yeah.
he's, that's his brand, right? Is catching those lobs. So it makes sense. I would be. Let me get one. But
Let me get up.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's got to make bang contact on that screen, because that's what gives us the numbers advantage. That
And here's the thing, you might be more right than you even think, because if he does do that and he does get back to having like 2 or 3 of those dunks a game, which like he can just easily if he's making that contact and getting good lanes going to the basket, like that's the thing that will get him noticed at his position. Like he does all the things that a player needs to do to get noticed by like mainstream media, mainstream fans. Like he's got the flashy dunks, he's got the highlight reel defensive plays. He's got that kind of energy, and he can accumulate numbers at like such a rate that he's an attention getter. So
yeah,
I think all he's got to do is even take a small step forward. It could be as small as even just what Joe's saying. And if you just put 2 more buckets a game, he's going to start getting noticed at a very, very big level.
he could be not like a pick and pop big, but the short roll. I feel like he could also do that really well. Like he will get a free throw line jumper.
He's a rich man's Capella.
Yeah. He's knocking down free throws. Like it's that's ready to happen for him.
Yeah,
Sorry,
80%.
Spence.
No, it's all good, guys. I've been thinking about like what is the
That's all right. Suppose he's just going to write about it later.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
yeah. A lot of backhanded jokes about you guys in the next piece. Yeah. What is like the aspiration? Like if we could say Rob Williams in his 99th percentile outcome, what does it look like? And I've always thought like, bam. But the more I think about it, why isn't it Draymond?
Mm.
He's got the passing. He's like, the crazy thing about Draymond is he's so good defending the perimeter and defending the rim. Like, Rob's already got that. He's not quite the instinctual defender that Draymond is, but, it's sort of like a 85-90% of it. And then he's got the vision. He's got the passing chops. He just can't dribble right now. But that's probably one of the easiest things you can add to your game. So I think maybe that's who he should be modeling his game after, because Draymond doesn't really shoot anymore. I mean, he had like the couple seasons where he was shooting threes, but that's not really his game. He is like he gets hit on the short roll and makes a play.
Spoons, I'm triggered, and I'm gonna say I don't think I want him, like, not because I want to like advocate for someone not developing their skills and all that. And so like if Rob wants to learn how to dribble, by all means, but that, I don't know if that's at the top of my list, because I feel like part of what makes him such a remarkable playmaker at his position is that his passing is instant. Like, he doesn't search for passes. Like, the ball touches his fingers, and he's already sending it where it's got to go. So, like, I don't want him doing anything where the ball is actually in his hands any longer than it needs to be. I think that is what makes him unique, and what makes him a little bit more of a modern unicorn than, because now every big guy dribbles the damn ball. Like, every big guy is bringing the ball up. Like, now to not do that and to specialize more in playmaking, like off the dribble or without a dribble, that's the unicorn now. Like, I think as far as a playmaker, I don't want him going in a different direction. I think it might take away.
How about this? How about this for a comp? Like Atlanta era Al Horford. He was a short roll, 15-foot shooter.
Yeah, he was not from deep guy early on. Like that. Yeah, the first like 4 or 5 seasons, he wasn't doing anything from deep.
Yeah, with more of a lob threat.
Yep. And mid range, he was butter in the mid.
Yeah.
I wonder how much the front office valued that mentorship relationship there between Horford and Timelord, and how much that would influence, what's happening leading up to the trade deadline here, because Al Horford's name has popped up as, potential trade candidate just because it's a meaty piece of salary that could be moved for us to get under the tax, and for a contender like the Warriors to add a contributing piece. But, Al Horford, you mentioned that similarity between their two game styles. I think you're hitting on something there, and it's clear the relationship that they have, and you could see it on the court. You could even hear it tonight because, as you mentioned, it was so quiet there in Orlando. You could hear Al coaching Rob after certain possessions, and I think that is a probably valuable part of his overall improvements. But I think that Rob Williams is the furthest from hitting his ceiling of all the guys that we're excited about what their ceiling is. I think Rob Williams still has the most room for growth there, and potentially the highest ceiling as far as distance from where he is now to where he's got to go. So,
I mean, am I crazy for thinking all NBA is not out of the question for this dude based on what he's shown the potential to do?
I mean, in his future?
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, obviously, he's not like an all-NBA player right in this immediate moment, but like what in his immediate skill set, like, does he not have that wouldn't... Because, like, he can impact the game as much, if not more, than a Gobert. Because you could play him at the end of a game. You can't play Gobert at the end of a game. Like, would you trade him for Gobert right now?
Oh, yes, I would.
Yeah.
You're crazy. You would trade Rob Williams for Gobert?
100%. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Get the fuck out of here. What?
I think Rob could probably get to sort of that third-team All-NBA level, but center's kind of sneaky loaded. Yeah. Embiid, Cat, Jokic, all those guys are like 27 or younger, so, and Rob's 24. It's not like he's 22. I mean, that's going to be tough. Plus, Gobert will be around for a while, and then who knows, who else might, Chet Holmgren or something could be there. So I do think he could get up to that type of level, but man, it's going to be really fucking hard to make an All-NBA team with those three guys.
Yeah,
that's fair.
The good news is that we don't need Time Lord to be as good as Rudy Gobert or Jokic. We just need him to improve slightly at things that he's already good at. Well, that's a conversation for another day. There's a user comment here on the post by Des Chain.
You guys are nuts. You're going to trade... What?
Des Chain said, I would say defensive anchor with regards to
I just
Rob.
got kicked off the pod. I know that.
He needs to work on his offensive game to be a star and to reach the heights of Rudy Gobert. Well, I guess we're going to have like a subscribers only
offensive
debate.
game does Rudy Gobert have? What?
Bit of back to the basket. He's a great role man.
He's single-handedly carried a Utah Jazz defense for like
To
5 years.
the second
A
round?
decade.
Yeah, hasn't he won Depoy for 3 of the last 4 years?
Yeah.
He's quite dominant.
All right.
Yeah, he's pretty good,
He's-
and also very good for Team France in the Olympics, who I believe made it to.
So
the
we're
gold
gonna
medal
dog
game.
on Ben Simmons for not being playable at the end of playoff games when they're close, but we're not gonna dog on Gobert for the same thing. No, it's cool. That's fine. He's not from Philly, so like we like him apparently.
Look, I've been known to propose the odd trade for Ben Simmons, so I'm probably the wrong audience there.
Yeah,
Gobert shoots 70% from the line. He's not like he doesn't have to get subbed out.
yeah.
No, but he
yeah,
can't play
this-
He gets switched all the time on Like he can't play
Oh,
defense
yeah.
at the end of the games.
If you're listening to the pod, this is a good time to jump into the comments thread and let us know how you feel about this particular part of the discussion, because I feel like this might elicit some comments from the users there.
Gobert
So,
is
good stuff.
garbage.
Garbage.
Yeah.
France is going to declare war on the United States.
Let's end on this. Seeding the Celtics now tied at number 6 with the Nets, unbelievably, given what we've been through this season. And we play the Nets next, in what will be a bit of a tiebreaker, I suppose. That's in Brooklyn. So no Kyrie, no Kevin Durant, likely no James Harden as well, because allegedly he's being shopped around with the Sixers. We'll see what happens there. And the Nets have lost 8 in a row. After that, we've got the Nuggets in Boston and the Hawks in Boston as well. If you've been listening to this podcast for any period of time, you'll know that Nuggets game is, for me, by far the most important game of the season. That is going to do it for this one. Thank you for listening. We'll be back later this week. In the meantime, go check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. Just Google Celtics Reddit Podcast. You can't miss it. Joe, Spoons, Jay, love your work, guys. Thanks again.